Hey college football fans, thanks for joining me on another episode of Walk It Off with Chappy. Enjoying the sunshine here in the afternoon after work. And I want to talk about the winners of week 6, the teams, the players, the stories that made us feel good and that you can cheer about. So first of all, let's give a shout out to the 4 interim coaches who had to coach this week and all won. Yep, they were 4-0. So Mickey Joseph and the Nebraska Cornhuskers snapping a streak of 10 or 11 one-score losses. They beat Rutgers on Friday night to put the Huskers at 2-1 in the Big Ten now and pull even to 500 at 3-3. Nice job, Coach Joseph. Coach Aguayo, the interim coach at Arizona State, an upset victory at home with some nice threads, by the way. I love those unis and those shiny lids out in the desert. So they beat the Washington Huskies. That's 2 straight L's for the men from Seattle. Got some work to do. We also had Brent Key, who is now 2-0 as interim coach at Georgia Tech. He pulled off a upset victory over ranked Pitt on the road, and then this weekend they beat Duke in Atlanta. So Brent Key has the Yellow Jackets now 2-1 in the ACC and playing a lot better than they've looked over the last few years. No disrespect to the previous coaching staff. And then of course Jim Leonhard, everybody's choice to be the next head guy at Wisconsin, starts off with a big-time W against my Northwestern Wildcats, 42-7, a 35-point victory for Coach Leonhard. I like the guy though. Happy to see him do well, even if it's against the team that I hold dear in my heart. Shout out to the Big 12, 2 undefeated teams, Oklahoma State and TCU. Both those teams will match up in this upcoming week. That'll be a doozy. And Kansas, they lost their first game of the season to the aforementioned TCU Horned Frogs, but they only lost by 7, and they did it really looking impressive with their backup quarterback, Jalen Daniels, a Heisman candidate, goes out in the second quarter. But KU is rocking and shocking and fighting all the way until the bitter end. They just couldn't pull it off. Texas looks good, damn good, especially on offense. Quinn Ewers, JT Sanders at tight end, Roschon Johnson, Bijan Robinson, everybody that they've got on that offensive group. That offensive line is looking more physical, so kudos to Coach Sark and the offensive staff, those offensive players. And let's give a shout out to the defense as well. They pulled a shutout against the Oklahoma Sooners, who have now given up, I think, 145 points in 3 games on defense, and they just look completely lost without Dylan Gabriel. So hopefully for Sooner fans, things improve there in a hurry. In the Pac-12, 2 undefeated teams, both of them in Southern California. USC and UCLA improved to 6-0 each, with the Trojans beating Washington State, a respectable team out in the Pac-12, and of course UCLA getting the home dub in pretty convincing fashion, at least pulling away in the fourth quarter against a higher ranked Utah team, a still pretty good Utah team. So that's a quality victory. So 2 in a row for Coach Kelly's boys. I honestly thought that they would have a little bit of a let off after an emotional victory last Friday night at home against Washington, but they followed up with a victory over an even higher ranked Utah team. So nice job, UCLA. And then also Tennessee. So they are turning skeptics into believers, yours truly included, completely dominating LSU in Death Valley on the road. Now granted, it was a noon kickoff. I think it may have been a slightly different game if it were in prime time, but I think given the way that Tennessee's clicking right now on offense and the way that they're holding their own on defense, that still probably would have been a 2-score victory at least, even if they played at nighttime in Baton Rouge. So nice job for the Vols. Also staying in the SEC, Mississippi State, a 40-17 win over an Arkansas team that is gritty, that's physical. That's an impressive victory. So Texas A&M last week, Arkansas this week. This is a 5-1 Mississippi State team that is looking really good, and got to be kicking themselves and thinking, what if they had held on, and what if they had played 4 full quarters against LSU and not lost that game in which they had a pretty commanding lead. They'd be looking at an undefeated record right now and almost undoubtedly a top 7 or 8 ranking nationally. Pitt running back Izzy Abanikanda, one of my picks as first team all ACC running back at the beginning of the year, goes for 326 yards, which is a Pitt record by the way, breaking TD, Tony Dorsett's record previously, and he beat it by about a good 20 yards. He also tied a school and ACC record for most touchdowns by a running back, 6 in one game. So that's 2 ACC players who've put up 6 touchdowns this year just in the last month alone, Sam Hartman being the other one against Clemson. And then Toledo cornerback Quinyon Mitchell, 4 interceptions. That's right, 4 picks in one game. 2 of them he took back to the house. So 2 pick sixes, 4 total interceptions, all happening basically in the first 2 quarters and 1 play. Picked off a pass to open the second half in their dominating win against Northern Illinois. So those are our winners for this week. Remember to check me out on Twitter at ChappyCFB, and also follow on our website cfpcollegefootball.com, and listen to the podcast, the CFP podcast, with yours truly and my guys Wax and Sully and all of our guests that are gracious to join us. I'm Chappy. This is what I know. This is what I love. Boom!